Hello everybody! Welcome to the first Handler Hangout of 2022. Happy monstering everybody! It is I, Monster Handler Jen, and I am back to host today's event. It's very nice to see everybody in here. Just to review the rules once again, if you do have any questions, just be sure to raise your hand, which is at the bottom of the screen, and you'll be added to the list. Once you've asked your questions, we will remove you from the stage just to keep things moving along. We are currently streaming today's AMA live to our YouTube channel, so keep that in mind just in case you're uncomfortable with sharing your voice. Just so you know, we may not have time to answer everyone's questions, but we're gonna do our best to get in as many as possible. So, today we have the amazing Monster Handler Matt, who I know has some very important announcements that he would like to share, so why don't we hand it over to him?
Hello, happy monstering everybody, and happy 2022. Hello to you, Monster Handler Jen, and I'm so excited to be here and connecting with our awesome community in this first opportunity here in the new year. So, the first piece of housekeeping that I have to share comes straight to us from Monster Handler Tyson, who made a promise, mind you, a promise to the community that he would do some further research and find out what the family of monsters that Ghast and Zister belong to. And we do have a name. We have a name for that, and that's the Gaskin. The Gaskin. G-H-A-Z-Z for you American fans. K-I-N. Gaskin. Gaskin. That is the first piece of housekeeping today.
That's
the second piece of
very exciting news.
I thought so. And many thanks to Monster Handler Tyson, who unfortunately was unable to join us today for this Handler Hangout, but wanted to make sure that that information got relayed out to the community. So that's canon now. That's official. The second piece of housekeeping that I wanted to talk about today is something that people can expect over the next week or so, the next 8 days or so. So, starting tomorrow, Friday, January 28th, certain social features such as Versus Mode on the Colossal, Tribal Island, torchlighting from friends will be unavailable due to a planned server upgrade. There will also be some short server downtime the week of January 31st, so that's next week, the exact date and time of which is going to be finalized very soon, and those aforementioned social features will return on Friday, February 4th. We want to thank everybody for their patience and understanding. This is just sort of a routine server migration. It helps us to achieve compliance with our partners who help host the game, and an important thing to mention is that this is only going to be affecting the mobile version of the game, not the Steam version on PC. So there won't be any disruptions, any changes to the Steam version, just on mobile. So once again, we want to thank the community in advance for their patience and understanding, and yeah, I think that's just about it from me.
Well, thank you for all of those wonderful announcements, Monster Handler Matt. Let's dive into some questions. Let's hear from Only Ama. You've been invited to speak.
Hello there.
Hello.
Hello.
Okay, thanks for accepting me here. My question is, if the if the Epic Wubbox is like, I mean, if all Wubboxes, no, actually, are like neurons, I guess, to the Colossal, they are inside the Colossal's head. Wouldn't it like hurt to take them out, like the mind, the diamonds, everything? Wouldn't it hurt to have the for it?
Yeah, sorry. That's an excellent question, and I'm happy to report that no physical pain or discomfort or duress is experienced on the part of the Colossal when those neurons, aka the Wubbox, are moving around. It's important to remember that the soul, the manifestation of the Colossal's spirit inside those islands is not necessarily super tied physically. It's more of a metaphysical change. So as things are sort of manipulated, diamonds are mined out of the island, or Wubbox are removed from the vault and placed on the surface of the island. It doesn't cause any physical pain, so it's less of a physical relationship and more of a metaphysical relationship. So no pain or discomfort, I am pleased to report.
Well, thank Galvana for that.
Agreed.
Let's hear from Sky Ryan. You're invited to the stage.
Okay. So, I've been theorized. Hello, Monster Handler Man, Monster Handler Jen.
Hello.
It's
Hello,
my
Sky Ryan.
Well, I hope you check my Ryan B. I have a theory. These candelabra represents fire and dromedary represents earth. You remember back last year about my theory? And there's an island. What is this? Are the quints represent an element?
That's an excellent question, Sky Ryan. With respect to the island that you are referring to, I have to assume that you are referring, as I'm sure many people are wondering about, the brand new, vaguely island-shaped silhouette that has appeared in our most recent Operation LOVE trailer for the Season of Love 2022. Obviously, there are lots of questions that remain unanswered about the nature of this particular island, and obviously we don't know much about it here on Monster Handler HQ. So to circle back to your original comment about the quint element monsters, each signifying one of the natural and fire elements, that is our leading theory as well, that Candelabra is fire-centric and the Dromedary is earth-centric. Now, for those remaining four quint element monsters, we have to expect that they will embody in some form water, cold, plant, and air, respectively. But we don't know much about them because they have not yet been discovered, and what relationship they may or may not have to any future discoveries is sort of unclear at this point. I wouldn't pin any hopes on it, but I don't really know for sure.
All right. What about Alien the Tree? You have been invited to speak.
Hello there.
Hello.
About Epic Boskus, I want to say this not really. Well, there might be. What is Epic Boskus supposed to be? Because apparently people seem to be questioning the design.
Alien the Tree, I don't really know what you're talking about. We have not yet discovered the Epic Boskus, and any questions that you may have related to such a theoretical monster, if I had to guess, you won't have too much longer that you'll be left in the dark about it, and I'm sure that you will be able to sniff out a solution sooner rather than later.
Excellent. What about Newbie? You've been invited to speak.
Hi.
Hello.
Am I allowed to ask, two quick questions?
If you can fit them into one, that would be best.
Okay. First quick question. Has anyone ever asked you for, like, free diamonds or something?
That happens all of the time.
Okay. And the second one is there gonna be more Epic Wubboxes, or we're just gonna have only plant and cold?
Great question, Newbie. There certainly doesn't seem to be any indication, any evidence of more Epic Wubbox coming anytime soon. Certainly, we've scoured Air Island and taken a look around, and we don't really necessarily expect any discoveries during the Season of Love 2022, but that's not to say that there won't be discoveries in the future. Obviously, having both plant and cold, having representatives in that particular monster class, would lead us to believe that more will be discovered in the future, but as is always the case in the monster world, hard to give any definitive answers, don't want to make any promises now and disappoint. I would say, perhaps perhaps.
Alrighty. What about Lukey Pookie? You have been invited to speak.
Hello.
Hello.
How are you?
We're doing great. How are you?
Wonderful. Thank you, Lukey Pookie. What is your question?
Let me pull it up one sec. Alright. So, for seasonals, is there gonna be, like, made-up seasons? Maybe, like, there's real-world seasons, like Day of the Dead and St. Patrick's and all these things. Are you ever, like, is your plan to, like, make up a season, like, for the monster world?
Great question, Lukey Pookie. I think I can answer that question by saying we have already done so, have we not? Jamboree is the seasonal for Anniversary Month, and of course, Anniversary Month is a celebration unique to My Singing Monsters and My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire. So, if the trend continues based on the precedent that has been set, I would expect that yes, future seasonals may be some combination of tie-in to real-world observances and perhaps some brand new ones as well.
Ooh. What about Melansky? You've been invited to the stage. Melansky, you've been invited to speak. Maybe we'll come back to Melansky. What about Sin Sid? You've also been invited to speak.
Hi guys, how y'all doing?
Good, thanks. What's
Doing
your
great.
question?
Alright, I got a lore question. I'm gonna try to cut some of it down so I don't take up too much time. Basically, the Mirror Islands, I think, are, in the Mirror Dimensions, a really interesting place. I think there might be a lot to discover there. I think what's really interesting is that, at least in game, the Pocket Dimension seems to be the Pocket Dimension for both the Main Dimension and the Mirror Dimension. And I was looking through a lot of things. I have this, theory I just want to put out there, that maybe see if it's not true, what maybe some alternatives might be. But I was thinking, sometimes there's lots of things about the Magicals and how they ended up in the Main Dimension. They weren't always there, but they're also very connected to the natural and fire monsters, but they're not the same. They're very unique. And we know that they almost swap places with the Outer Islands. I wonder if there's a chance that maybe the Magicals aren't of this dimension, maybe of the Mirror Dimension. And if not, maybe what is out there in the Mirror Dimension. Thanks.
Sinsid, you definitely know what you are talking about. A very learned monster handler apprentice indeed. With respect to the Mirror Dimension there, that houses the Mirror Islands, its particular story is still mostly shrouded in mystery, but the interesting thing that we've discovered recently, of course, is the connection that Ethereal Island has to the genesis of the monster world itself, and that it's quite a far more ancient island than we originally expected. So I think that the Mirror Dimension has a lot more to do with perhaps that pocket dimension in that reality encroaching upon the main dimension and sort of blurring the lines, making it a little less clear what the distinctions are between the main dimension and the pocket dimension in the Mirror Dimension. Are you still following? There's a lot of dimensions we're talking about here. Now, with respect to the Magicals, definitely an interesting notion, a fascinating theory to propose that the Magicals are perhaps not of this main dimension. Indeed, their origin is still sort of shrouded in mystery because they came about so much later than other known monster species that were sort of brought into existence by the Colossals during the dawn of fire. Don't really necessarily have any concrete answer that I can give you, since it about whether that theory is accurate or inaccurate, but it's definitely something curious to consider.
Alrighty. What about Lava Fox 973? You have been invited to speak.
Hello there.
Hello.
I have a question.
Go for it.
What's about Epic Wubbox on Air Island?
Lava Fox, first of all, I want to say I love your avatar there. Looks like it was created there with the Monster Avatar machine, which is always nice to see. Epic Wubbox on Air Island. Yes, I think that is sort of the buzziest topic right now in the monster world, which surprises me greatly because, of course, it does seem to be a new island just there on the horizon to discover. But no word yet on the confirmed existence of the Wubbox, the Epic Wubbox on Air Island. I have nothing to say at this time. No comment, please. I plead ignorance.
Alrighty, what about the Monster Explorers? You've been invited to speak. Monster Explorers, you're invited to the stage. Alright, let's try somebody else. What about Kika? You've been invited to the stage.
Oh, shoot. Hi. Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Perfectly. Hello, Kika.
I was just wondering, will there ever be, like, any expansion of the lore of the Werdos anytime soon, or just, like, ever?
Great question, Kika. The Werdos definitely are interesting because they straddle multiple realities, don't they? They seem to be at home both in the monster world and as representatives of creative forces here in the human world, just like their legendary counterpart Sugarbush. The Werdos are reflections, if you will. They're sort of echoes of different musical voices here in the human world. Of course, I share a particularly potent connection with the Werdo Stew Orb, but in terms of where they come from, I think that the mystery has mostly been solved, that they are a byproduct of prolonged exposure and collaboration with the human world. Now, of course, we have discovered those 4 Werdo species so far, and they seem to be perfectly at home there on the natural islands. They do appear to prefer the natural islands in terms of their range and where they'd like to go exploring in the monster world. So that's probably where they're going to be sticking around for the time being.
All right, let's hear from Brandon HN. You have been invited to the stage. Brandon HN. There we go.
Oh my god.
Hello.
So much. Hey. Alright, so I am going to ask a question. So, okay. Will the Celestials be teleportable just like the baby monsters in Dawn of Fire? It's because, for the matter of fact, the Celestials in Celestial Island, they start as babies, but in Dawn of Fire, the baby monsters are baby monsters. But when you teleport the baby monsters Dawn of Fire to the outer islands, they become adults. So, if Glacier were to be teleported to Cold Island, would he become like an adult Glacier?
Great question, Brandon, and again, an excellent understanding of the current mechanics of the monster world. So I think the curious thing about the Celestials that needs to be considered is that because they are these old, these ancient, these primordial cosmic entities that sort of are able to take physical form in the monster world because of their connection with the former Starhenge, now Celestial Island, I think that they have sort of a special relationship with that piece of machinery that allows them to sort of preserve that form. And I think that if they were to migrate outside of that particular area, they might start to, dematerialize and perhaps become one with the stars again. So I think it's very important that they stick around, that they remain in the vicinity of Celestial Island in the contemporary modern monster world. Now, of course, you mentioned that they are young, in their young form, of course, in My Singing Monsters, and that they are in their elder form in My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire. Now, of course, it takes an exceptionally long time and a lot of effort for those monsters, they're very old, mind you, to progress, to age in that particular way. So Definitely an interesting idea. Celestial Island is still comparatively new. I know that it was released several years ago now in our sense of time and chronology, but they're so ancient, these beings, that it might take a long time for them to actually grow up. And if I had to guess, that growing up will continue to take place on Celestial Island.
Wonderful. What about Graham02? You have been invited to the stage. Graham02, you've been invited to speak. Alright, let's try someone else. Let's try Mr. Blue. You have been invited to the stage. You're just...
minute.
Oh, hello, there you go.
Hi. Okay, well, I do have so many questions, but I just wish I knew what to pick. But I guess I'll just pick the one that's always been running through my mind, and that was have you ever considered reprising the music in the map of a Furcorn Jellydreams into their own islands? I know that might take like a little bit of this, a little bit of that. I mean, just a little question is all.
It's a great question, Mr. Blue. This is sort of a behind-the-scenes, behind-the-curtain kind of answer here. There are no plans at this time to revive or revisit Furcorn's Jellydreams as a game, or to make that available in that particular form. But we know that the music was beloved by the community, who did get a chance to play it when it was in sort of its limited beta release. So the compromise that we wanted to reach, of course, is to give people the opportunity to listen to that music, and we did so by making them different tunes that you can listen to in the jukebox on the Colossal. So that was sort of our gift to the community, that we knew that people still wanted to have access to that music, but the Furcorn's Jellydreams as a project has been sunset, and there are no plans to reopen it at this time.
All right. Enharmonic, you've been invited to speak.
Oh, hello, Monster Handlers Jen, Matt. How are you guys today?
We're doing
Hello.
great, Enharmonic. What's your question?
So my question was something. My question is regarding the Ethereals. Like, we know that obviously they're not from the main dimension of the monster world. They're from the pocket dimension of Ethereal Island. But what's always had me curious, I've never thought to question this until recently. Why are they there? Why are they on the natural islands? What sort of otherworldly force had brought the Ethereals to sort of the main monster world, and what caused them to integrate among the other monsters?
An excellent question, Enharmonic, and sometimes it's the case that I don't have a satisfactory answer for people because we haven't sufficiently researched it, we don't have the information on hand, but I can actually hopefully satisfactorily answer your question today, Enharmonic. When the continent cataclysmically broke apart, separated out into the various distinct elemental lands, and became the natural islands, at that time the entire fabric, the stability of the monster world itself, was rocked to its very core. And I believe that the previously well-partitioned sort of distinct pocket dimension actually sort of opened up, or became a lot more fluid in its ability to be accessed by the main dimension, and during that time certain specimens of the single element Ethereals, so Ghast and Grumpire and Rebro and Geode and Humbug, actually sort of accidentally found themselves tumbling through those wormholes and finding homes and settling on natural islands. So I believe that the means by which they got there was actually a direct byproduct of the destabilization of the monster world at the conclusion of the Dawn of Fire.
Very interesting stuff. Let's hear from K-Soup. You've been invited to speak.
Where do you guys see this game 10 years from now?
K-Soup, what a great question, and definitely a timely question as we prepare to celebrate the first 10 years of My Singing Monsters later this year in September 2022. Where do we see this game in 10 years? Well, obviously, our hope is that a whole new generation of players gets to delve in and enjoy and listen to the music and explore the lore and learn more about this world that we've created. I quite honestly, I think that there's just still so much left to learn about and explore that I have a feeling that we'll be doing exactly what we're doing right now, 10 years from now, and continuing to learn more about this this pretty wild, wacky, creative world that we all get to play in. It's a pleasure and a privilege to be able to explore and work on the monster world.
What an exciting prospect. Another 10 years of My Singing Monsters.
Indeed.
All right, let's hear from Lucid Frost. You've been invited to speak.
Oh my god, Vana. I love y'all so much. I'm sorry. Anyway, so the prismatics, whenever the prismatics change into their form, like whenever they go in and come back out into different monsters, does their physical body change? Because I see some of them completely change in their looks, and so like does Mammott's eyes, like does he change the way he sees, with especially in the purple prismatic Mammott?
That's a great question, Lucid Frost. Yeah, it seems that when those monsters are undergoing those alterations at the molecular level, the best comparison that I can give, and it's not a perfect one, but one that I think helps to visualize that transformation beyond the Prism Gate, is that it's sort of like a caterpillar becoming a butterfly, in the sense that inside the proverbial cocoon of that Prism Gate dimension, the monster is basically melted down into a goo and then reforms in a shape that is similar to, that's still identifiably that monster, especially as far as their sound is concerned, but everything about them has been changed. So to use the specific example that you brought up, yes, I'm confident that each different variant of the Prismatic Mammott has a different view of the world around it after it's returned to the monster world, and that is a direct byproduct, I think, of the brand new sets of eyes that each of them distinctly has.
All right. Wither of Earth, you've been invited to speak.
Hi.
Hello.
Hi. So my question is, the new island teased in the Season of Love trailer, it seems to have some sort of a theme with Amber, and considering the fire monsters are associated with Amber, is it possible that this new island might be related to the remaining fire monsters we've yet to see in MSM1? Because I know we've seen a glimpse of Yelmut in MSM1's art style back when the winners of the MSM awards were revealed, and we saw a glimpse of that, so could these two possibly be related in some form?
Great question, Wither of Earth. Yes, the only thing that we know for sure about this brand new island is which dimension it inhabits, and there are actually some clues tucked in the video that suggest at where this particular island might live. I can sort of help guide the community along and exclude for you all, consideration wise, that it is not inside the pocket dimension. Could it be in the main dimension? Maybe. Could it be on the higher plane? I don't know, but I would definitely go back with a fine-toothed comb and take a look through that trailer, because there are actually more than a few clues poking about in there that can be used to discern exactly what might be expected from this soon-to-be-discovered island.
All right. Lemo, you've been invited to speak.
Hello. I have two questions. When will the next Werdo sale be? And also, will there be any other mythicals like Gajub and Yostridge?
Great questions, Limo. Because both of them are pretty quick answers, I can answer them both very quickly. When is the next Werdo sale? I don't know. But perhaps taking a look back at the pattern that has emerged over the last little while will help you to make an educated guess. And then part number 2 of your question, I'm struggling to remember now. Monster Hunter Jen, do you remember what the second question was?
I believe it was, are there going to be any more monsters like Yostrich and Gajoo?
Oh, yes. Thank you very much for the reminder.
You are welcome.
Yes, there are plans to be more mythicals, but of course, those mythicals are scheduled to be the exciting collaboration between us monster handlers and those participants in the ultimate creator experience that were offered up to the community as part of the My Singing Monsters board game. Now, of course, the state of the world being where it's at right now, I think it's very important that we all continue to be safe, that we try and look out for others and try and be as mindful of others as we can. So with respect to when those collaborations are taking place, I can't honestly say. Obviously, we had hoped against hope that would be happening sometime this year. We still have to reach out and hear back from those Ultimate Creator Experience participants because they are the lucky members of the community who will help guide the process of designing the remaining mythicals. So for that reason, we are sort of waiting for an opportune time to start that collaborative process, but in the meantime, there are no plans to make mythicals without them. We're sort of waiting on that to be cleared up and for things to be a little safer for everyone again.
All right. Let's hear from Octobro. You've been invited to speak. Hello, Octobro. We can't hear you. It appears that Octobro may be having some technical difficulties. Perhaps we'll try to come back to Octobro later. What about the 340? You've been invited to speak.
Hello?
Hello!
Hey. Now, I didn't catch everything. I got here a little bit late, but I'm wondering about the gameplay around the seasons. I believe it was 1 or 2 hangouts ago when you tossed out the idea of reworking the seasons in the game. I'm just wondering if you'd like to say anything new on that, or if you're holding off, that's fine as well.
Great question, 340. I think that what you're referring to is, I made a comment earlier on that as we were working on the idea for seasonal Shanty, we wanted to sort of reformat the existing lineup of seasonals into core seasonals and sort of an everybody else seasonals, so that we were able to make a family tree of seasonals that made use of the 5 core seasonals that had been around in the game for so long. So that's the sort of reformatting of the seasonals that I was referring to at that time. So as a reminder, those 5 core seasonals are Punkleton, Yule, Schmoochel, Blabbit, and Hula. And the non-core seasonals are the ones that have been discovered so far, of course, are Gobblegord, Jamboree, Clavavera, and of course, the most recently discovered seasonal, Carolong, the seasonal of the Crescendo Moon. Just discovered this year. Very exciting.
Very exciting indeed. What about Sparky, MSM? You've been invited to the stage.
Oh, okay. Can you hear me?
Yep.
All right. Okay. I kind of wasn't expecting to be. All right. But anyway, my question is there any evidence of the Prism Gate still existing within the monster world today?
Great question, Sparky MSM. Yes and no. The sort of magical technology, if you want to call it that, the phenomenon of the Prism Gate actually continues to this day, but it is specifically accessed through the blueprints that were furnished to the other singing monsters by the globes when they arrived in the monster world dimension, and the conjuring of globes, which is accomplished via the fuser structure, actually sort of opens a very, very miniature Prism Gate, but it's not a gate through which monsters pass into that dimension. It's a gate through which globes pass out of into the monster world dimension. So in a sense, the Prism Gate is still around, but it sort of has been harnessed. It is now under a state of control. It's more stable using the technology of the fuser structure.
All right. James King, TGT, you've been invited to speak. Oh, we just can't hear you, James. All right, perhaps James is having some technical issues as well. What about the Singing Pocket? You've been invited to speak.
Hello, everyone. I had a question for my friend, Dapper Thrumble, and he wants to know how long is a Thrumble neck?
Great question, the Singing Pocket, and well, actually, it's a great question from your friend there. The length of a Thrumble's neck varies. As some of you may know, in development, this monster was affectionately referred to as Stretch Neck, and so for that reason, the specific physiology of a Thrumble's neck allows it to extend the neck to extraordinary lengths. Now, there is a limit to the length that a Thrumble's neck can stretch to, but I will say it's quite long enough that it can comfortably stretch it above the canopy of certain trees in the monster world in order to look around and see if there's anything of interest nearby. I think we've previously depicted a Thrumble's neck reaching up all the way up through the trees and taking a look at, I believe, a gingerbread house in the era of Dawn of Fire. But very, very stretchy, very, very long. We haven't done any specific measuring of that neck, but know that it can reach formidable lengths.
Okay. Logan Jake, 899, you have been invited to speak. Logan Jake. Oh, there we are. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, good. I love your game. When I was about 6 years ago, I had brain cancer, and your game was the only thing keeping me going.
Well, thank you so much, Logan Jake. We're so pleased that you are continuing to be an awesome member of this community. What is your question?
I play with my 4-year-old brother all the time.
That's awesome.
So my question is, so we know that some kind of earthquake or whatever happened that caused the continent to break apart. But I thought of something after a trailer a year or two back where we saw Furcorns and Prismatic Canas coming out of the Prism Gate, and the Prism Gate was growing as the monsters went in. And that raises the question if the Prism Gate grew so large that it grew out of control and split the continent apart and somehow sucked the magical islands inside.
Logan Jake, a very interesting theory. We do know, you're correct, that over time the Prism Gates have been growing larger and larger and perhaps a little bit more, if they can be said to have a personality or an intent, a little bit more mischievous, a little bit more ambitious in just how much contact they have with the monster world back during the era of Dawn of Fire. We do know that the timing of the Outer Islands disappearance roughly aligns with that of the cataclysm, the shattering of the prehistoric continent, but we're not entirely sure whether or not that's just a side effect of that particular disruptive event, or if it directly caused it, because so far there hasn't been any evidence that the Prism Gate had directly touched the continent in any meaningful way, that it was confined to the outer islands. But that would definitely be interesting to discover that in the future, if that was in fact the case.
All right. Perry Power, you've been invited to speak. Perry Power. All right. What about Kurara? Wow, that was a mouthful. You've been invited to the stage. Oh, Perry Power's here. Hello, Perry Power.
Hello?
Hello. What was your question?
You guys.
What was your question, Perry Power? Think we might be having some technical difficulties there, unfortunately. Let's
Help us, Vamp. Help us, Vamp. Those technical difficulties plaguing us. Come on, Vamp. Give us a hand here, or a limb, or whatever you want to call what Vamp has.
Let's hear from Maxley. You've been invited to speak. Hello, Maxley. You're just muted.
Alright, so in the Earth Island soundtrack, Rare Wubbox, instead of like doing his normal sounds, he was like singing different lyrics. So I don't know what's the deal with that, I guess.
Good question, Maxley. For the official soundtracks, and of course Volume 2, we were very excited to debut just before Christmas at the end of last year, in the year of the monster of 2021. It's important to remember that the soundtracks are an opportunity for us as creators and shepherds of this music to have a little bit of fun with it, and sometimes integrate either stuff that was left on the cutting room floor that didn't actually make it into the game, or alternate takes, or different ideas like that. Several people have commented on, or at least noticed, that there are some inconsistencies on the soundtrack with what's in game, and those are deliberate creative choices on the part of our team, just to sort of mix it up, offer something unique, because obviously if you'd like to hear the song as it appears in game, well, you have to look no further than just popping into the game and listening to it that way. So yeah, the soundtrack, like the different Rare Wubbox lyrics on Earth Island that you were describing in your example, are just a product of, I think, us wanting to mess around, push the envelope, share with the community, those sorts of things that you won't necessarily have the opportunity to hear in-game.
All right, Kurara, you've been invited to speak again.
Ready.
Hello. Oh, got some feedback going on there.
Yes, my sister and I have been monster handlers since I was in high school.
That's very exciting. What's your question?
My question is, when will Yelmut be in the first game? And why does the Prismatic Yelmut look so odd? It just really makes me feel jittery. Well,
Great questions, Kurara. Obviously, canonically, Yelmut has always existed in the main game, the first game of My Singing Monsters. It was just hanging out with its fellow fire monsters there in the sanctuary of Fire Haven, in the living core of the monster world, recently discovered, of course, to be Fire Haven in its contemporary incarnation. So yes, Yelmut has always been around, but with respect to your question of when will it make its way officially to the first game, I can't say for sure. Obviously, I know that it has been a much requested item for those other monsters that appear in Dawn of Fire to find their way in some form to My Singing Monsters. Still trying to find a way to make that work. So yeah, so I guess we'll see in the future. And with respect to Prismatic Yelmut, I think you're definitely right that Prismatic Yelmut does look odd, but don't all Prismatics look odd when you really think about it? The fact that Yelmut has turned from some sort of blubbery seal creature to some sort of mite there with multiple legs, you're right, it sort of gives me the heebie-jeebies as well. But so often the Prismatics have that effect on people.
Absolutely they do. Let's hear from Mr. Anana. You've been invited to speak.
Hi. Will there be updates for My Singing Monsters Playground where new monsters will be added, so new playable monsters?
Great question, Mr. Anana. I would say never say never. For My Singing Monsters Playground, obviously we wanted to make sure that the starting lineup there of monsters were some of our iconic brand characters that would be instantly recognizable, both to longtime players of the brand, and if perhaps you had never played My Singing Monsters, perhaps you'd come across either an ad for it or seen the icon with Furcorn on there. So it was important for us to make sure that that lineup included those iconic characters. But at this point, I would say never. There's as was asked about earlier in this handler hangout. Where do we see ourselves in 10 years? Anything can happen in those 10 years. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Alrighty. Why don't we hear from Zach? You've been invited to the stage. Zach, you've just been invited to speak. Hello.
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
My question was, will there be a like an update to see your total amount of coins?
Great question, Zach. I think you're referring to the fact that past a certain amount of coin wealth accumulated in the game, the display stops at a particular value. That's a great technical question that I will have to follow up with our computer literate members of the Monster Handler effort. I think that there's a good technical reason why it is currently capped at that display, but that could be something that could be changed in the future. I'll have to follow up with the team, won't I?
All right. What about Cheese Man? You've been invited to speak. Oh, no more Cheese Man. All right. What about Dag772?
Hello, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Hold on, I can't hear you for some reason. Hold on. Wait, are you there?
Yep.
Can you hear us, Dag?
Yes, I can.
All right.
Okay, great.
What's your question?
So, are you going to have any more updates to the My Singing Monsters Composer app? Like, for example, fire monsters, magical monsters, and all that? Thank you.
Great question, Dag722. There are... I see Monster Handler Mike has joined us. Hello, Monster Handler Mike. I don't know if he's there or if he's just sort of there in spirit, but I see him there. That's Monster Handler Junior Henry, I believe. There pictured Monster Handler Mike's avatar. But the question about updates to My Singing Monsters Composer, I know of at least one particular update that we are hoping to get in the pipeline this particular year, and I think that would be not much of a surprise to people about what that update would include. Some monsters that perhaps already have some composer-esque functionality out there in the wild in some form. So that's definitely something that we have on our wish list. But again, it's important to remember that in terms of where the monster handlers are focusing their efforts, it's always on My Singing Monsters, the main app experience first. And we do, of course, love to extend our love to our other games like My Singing Monsters Dawn of Fire we are continuing to work on. But it's, I just want to make sure that the expectations are realistic there, that it's something that we'd like to do, that we'd want to do, but I'm not sure thereafter. Again, much like the question that was posed about Micing Monsters Playground, I would say never say never. There, we can think it's one way, and then it can change moving forward. So I guess we'll have to wait and see.
Hello. Sorry to spook you. I was trying to raise my hand to join everybody here in asking questions, and then I just jumped up on stage instead by mistake. I just wanted to say you've been doing a wonderful job answering everyone's question. I've been listening from afar and enjoying all the things you've had to say.
Why, thank you, Monster Handler Mike. We've missed your presence.
I've been in the audience.
Okay, good. I'm glad that you were listening. Anything that you want to add at this time before we continue with the last several questions?
I want to know what your favorite moment in the Season of Love trailer was.
My favorite moment is when Jamboree gets totally wiped out accidentally by Schmoochel upon takeoff.
Great moment.
Big laugh when I first saw
Poor
that.
Jamboree. But Jamboree's a good sport. Knows that it wasn't a purposeful thing. It was an accidental knocking over. How about you, Jen?
My favorite moment was the flight of the Schmoochels. All of the rare and epic Schmoochels coming in.
Yes, I know that a lot of people were commenting on that. Can you imagine seeing that in the sky here in the human world? It would definitely be. I think Alfred Hitchcock made a movie about something like that at some point. Some people would be definitely a little spooked by that. That would be a lot of Schmoochels to see in one go, for sure.
At least the Schmoochels are a little more friendly looking than the aforementioned birds you were speaking of.
Yes, they are.
All right, I think we have time for another couple of questions here. Let's hear from Blake at Stake. You've been invited to speak.
Hey guys.
Hello.
Okay, I had a question. It's about the Prism Gate, since an earlier question made me think about the Prism Gate. How is the Prism Gate, picky? Why does it only want, some monsters going in at a time? Why does it really not want, me to just place in my Barb? As an example.
That's a great question, Blake at Stake. The exact nature of the Prism Gate, like so many things in the monster world, is an enduring mystery. Does it have an agenda? Does it have any sort of a favoritism that it shows towards some monsters versus others? It's sort of unclear. The way we've sort of thought of it in the past is that not only is the Prism Gate willing to accept certain monsters at certain times, but also different monsters in the monster world can sort of be in different moods about whether or not they want to embark upon a journey into the Prism Gate in the first place. Obviously, as the Prism Gate was first being discovered, it was much more of a volunteer-based expedition that certain monsters would pluck up the courage to go inside, and then as the Prism Gate recurred more and more frequently, it seemed that the Prism Gate shifted from sort of waiting and being this passive thing that a monster could enter, and instead was sort of gobbling up unsuspecting monsters. So I think that it's important to remember that the Prism Gate is not a malevolent force. It's not one that is evil or mean in any way. I just think it, like other entities in the monster world, I can think of Hula and Punkleton, who are tricksters, who are pranksters, and who like to have a little joke and get everybody laughing about their antics.
All right, Stinky Stew. Oh wait, you've been invited to speak.
First, I thought you were talking to me there, Monster Handler Jen. Hello, Stinky Stew.
I almost never get to it. My question is, will we get rare and epic versions of monsters on seasonal Shanty? That's all I had.
Okay, great. Thank you for your question, Stinky Stew. I think if I understood correctly, your question was, will we get rare and epic versions of seasonals on Seasonal Shanty? Well, of course, as each seasonal event sort of rolls around here on the calendar, different rare and epic monsters join the cast of Seasonal Shanty officially. If I'm not mistaken, just little under an hour ago, Rare Schmoochel is available for the very first time to buy or breed on Seasonal Shanty, and it can be teleported at level 15 from Air Island as well. So over the course of the next little bit, those rare and epic seasonal monsters that have been discovered to date will be finding their way bit by bit onto Seasonal Shanty. With respect to the non-core seasonals, will rare and epic versions of them be discovered? I don't entirely know. I don't really know. Obviously, as those monsters sort of find their footing, if they have feet, that is, on Seasonal Shanty, they might branch out and look elsewhere in the monster world for a secondary home other than Seasonal Shanty. And at that point, who knows? Maybe we will discover rare and epic variants of them. Who's to say?
All right, I think we will have one more question for today. Let's hear from Furcorn Fan 14. You've been invited to the stage. Furcorn Fan. All right, let's try Conquer 204. You've been invited to speak.
G'day. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Thank you. If this has been asked before, sorry if I do ask it again. With the Werdos, how their names are like Parlsona and Tawker, them being the Werdo species, is their names like, well, Parlsona, is that being their own like species of the Werdos, or is that just their names and whatnot?
Great question, Conquer 204. Yeah, it's sort of unclear in those particular instances what is the nickname, the given name that an individual specimen of that species is called versus what the name of the species itself is. We've always sort of considered it to be just like other monsters where the species name, the subspecies, if you want to call it that, of Werdo, if Werdo can be considered one big species, is, for example, Parlsona, and then that Parlsona can have a nickname individually beyond that. So, for example, you might say that it is Jen, the Parlsona, or Mike, the Parlsona. But of course, in certain contexts and in certain media, we sort of generalize that to be just Parlsona, just so that people know what we're talking about. But of course, just about every monster in the monster world can have a nickname. I mean, even the Celestials can have nicknames, if you want to think about it that way. But they are maybe the only example that I can think of where it's more often that we will refer to, say, a Hornicle as just the Hornicle, because they are singular entities in the monster world, canonically.
We've had some really great questions today, Monster Handler Matt.
I certainly agree, Monster Handler Jen. Definitely an excellent way to kick off 2022. Lots of thoughtful, insightful, well-researched questions, and you had me on the ropes for a couple of them. But I hope that the answers today have been helpful and have given people lots of fuel to burn in their mind engines about all sorts of exciting things that may be on the horizon for the My Singing Monsters experience.
Do you have any closing remarks, Monster Handler Mike or Monster Handler Matt?
I'll let Mike go first if he's so inclined, if he has anything to say.
I just want to say that I value each and every person here, and it's always a joy to hear your questions and hear all your thoughts and everything. And it's very, very nice getting to speak with you all. But Matt, I think you actually may have something, so I'll kick it to you.
I do have something, Monster Handler Mike. Obviously, this particular Monster Handler Hangout series has been a lot of fun and I think it's been a really cool way to connect with the community. We sort of touched on this at the end of last year, but I think over the course of this year, we are actively interested in maybe exploring other ways that we can reach out and have these community type events. I think we'll probably continue with the cadence of having them monthly. I think that makes sense. It gives us enough time to get organized. It allows us to devote the full hour of time to interacting and listening to the community's questions and comments and stuff like that. But we don't really have a concrete plan yet about what form these interactions will take moving forward. But I know that it is something that we're always interested in optimizing, in making better for you. So I guess we'll sort of see, much like the updates to the various games themselves, what form this ongoing excellent conversation takes in the new year.
I'm very excited to see what the future of the Handler Hangouts will have in store for us this year.
I agree.
All right. Anything else from you, Monster Handler Matt?
Nope. Just for those people who missed the beginning of this Handler Hangout and the message about the scheduled server downtime that's happening over the next little bit, don't worry. That information will be going out on our social media channels and in game very soon, so that you'll be able to see exactly what is affected and what's going on. And again, that those particular disruptions, we're going to try and make them as the least impactful possible, and that they are only going to be affecting the mobile version of the game and not the Steam version on PC. Just wanted to send out that reminder to everybody.
Well, thank you so much for joining us today, Monster Handler Matt. Monster Handler Mike, thank you for popping in to say hello. Thank you to everybody who has been in the Oculo Grove Discord today and everybody watching on YouTube. What an awesome way to kick off the 2022 Handler Hangouts, and happy monstering, everybody!
Happy monstering! Take it easy, everybody.
Bye, everyone!
Bye.